freelancers, it's your pricing queen Jazz here, and welcome to the Creative Business Kitchen, where ambitious freelancers go to build a business that feeds their passion as well as their back pocket. Today, I'm gonna be heading down a little bit of a rabbit hole of a rant on hourly pricing. So strap yourselves in, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and prepare to feast on all things to help you find your own flavor of freelance success. Let's dig in. I really hope that you're ready for a bit of a rant on hourly pricing. Ooh, okay, so hourly rates are common in a lot of businesses. For some businesses, it makes sense and it works, especially those that are structured in a way that they don't lose out on that way of pricing. But what about creative business? What about freelancers? For us, hourly rates may be common, but they are a recipe for disaster when your creative business grows. We may have been on the other side of the equation where we have hired someone on a pay per hour system. It would make sense for them because it's commonplace, it's traditional, and it makes sense for us because that's the way we've engaged them before. But in these situations, we can sometimes end up watching the clock, trying to get the best value for money when it comes to time spent. And hourly pricing works for some businesses because that's their structure and it's suited to their deliverables and their profit margins and their processes, and that's great for them. Yeah! But hourly pricing sucks as a freelancer and a creative. I'm sure there's other industries that it sucks for, but this is a video written and created by creatives for creatives, so it only makes sense to bring this to you from that view. We're going to look at the reasons why it doesn't work in most cases for us. So stick around to the end to find out how you can make it work for you. Now, before I dive in, I want to make this super clear. Your hourly rate and the dollar amount that you put on your time are two completely different things. An hourly rate refers to when a client buys your time and it's tracked and billed simply with that structure. The monetary reward that you get for that is in exchange for the time that you spend. Now, the dollar amount that you put on your time, and I refer to it as your billable hour, is the result of the calculations you have made to work out what your time is worth based on your income projections, your expenses, and your hours that you can work. Think of it as your personal rate, the cost price of your time that you multiply by your hours you're spending to get that labor cost, and then you add in the value for materials. This is something I also highly recommend that you calculate, and if you do need help calculating it, you can head here to use my free pricing calculator. Okay, with that out of the way, let's dig into why hourly rates suck. First, it penalizes productivity. So the first big problem with hourly rate pricing is that if you don't raise your rates often enough to account for your improving skills or efficiency, you're going to end up being penalized for ultimately being better at your job. We all want to be able to do the things that we are getting paid for faster because that means we can get back to, doing the things we love to do, like playing with the dog or cooking or eating. But if we get faster at doing something, and then we're working on an hourly rate system, ultimately we end up getting paid less the better we get at doing it quicker. See why this isn't making sense? You are being unfairly penalized for something that is actually an incredible, valuable asset, efficiency and skill. Okay, number 2, it doesn't account for value. This is a doozy because it's only really in the last 5 to 10 years that we really have been bringing the value conversation into the equation when we talk about pricing creativity. So in this, the best way to look at it is if you were to create a product and it took you 10 hours, and so you charged those 10 hours, but then it went on to generate the equivalent of 100 hours worth of your value, then the creative is massively shortchanged. This is where accounting for value is so important because it is easy to get caught up in the dollars and time, or the dollars for time mentality, and forget that what we are doing is actually generating revenue and value for our clients. And if the client is getting a massive slice of the pie and you're only getting crumbs, something's got to be changed in this recipe. Okay, number 3, it can hinder the creative process. So as creatives, we know that the creative process needs time to marinate. Forcing creativity simply doesn't work. I don't know how many times I've tried to get an idea to work before it's fully worked its way through my brain, down my arm, onto my hand, and onto the paper. It gets caught if it isn't ready, or it just ends up like a sloppy mess. Feeling like you're rushed or chasing the clock only makes it worse, and creativity can't thrive in a stressed out environment. By working on an hourly rate structure, you're severely hindering your ability to be a creative, which is what you're usually great at. And that leads to some pretty dark places. Creatives need time, and that's not hourly rate time. And number 4, it actually stresses your clients out. What if someone came to you and told you that the job that you asked them to do will take as long as it takes and I'll bill you when I'm done? Stressful, right? It's kind of like writing a blank check and hoping for the best. This structure can also be terrible for business and budgets because most corporate clients operate on those systems and they're chasing profit. And if you say it could be 50, 500 or 5 grand, straight away that threatens their profit potential. That sort of thing is breeding ground for stress, and ultimately this is where we find micromanaging clients and the ones that make us feel rushed, and we don't want them. We know that that's not where we want to be, and neither does the client for that matter. And number 5, it limits a creative's earning capabilities. As much as we try to create more time and hours in the day, we can't. I cannot tell you how many times I've tried. We're creative, but we're not that creative. By pricing per hour, we have put a limit on how much we can charge. Not every hour in a creative day is billable either. So knowing this, we have to account for those non-billable times. And all of a sudden, we are having even less hours than we can actually bill for. That sucks because we've gone from working every possible hour in the day, I see you, to realizing that we can't actually bill for every hour of the day and end up charging the client 3 hours for something that actually took us like 10. Whoops. Now, if you struggle to put a dollar amount on your time, head here to grab my free pricing calculator and run your numbers for yourself. It's the best way to work out your unique recipe for your own prices. Now, you've probably gotten to this part of the video and been like, okay, we got it, Jazz. Hourly's out. No more hourly rates. And that's actually not what I'm saying 100%. I would say that hourly rate work accounts for maybe 10 to 15% of my income for my business, with the rest being project rates, products, productized services, as well as licensing and value-based pricing. So, what particular situations work for hourly pricing or hourly rate pricing? Number 1, when the scope is unclear. A really important part of any quoting process is understanding what it is that you need to deliver to keep the client happy. But sometimes it's unclear really how much is needed or how long it's going to take to reach that deliverable that the client has in mind. Just remember that it's up to you to keep communicating with the client that this is the situation that they have so that they don't have bill shock and ultimately blame you for the situation that they have created. Next is when it's ongoing work with specific needs. So say, for instance, that you have a client where not all of the work can be done at once, that the client has larger projects that needs to be completed over the next few days, weeks, or sometimes even months, and the requirements are going to change with the passing of time. This is a great way to work with a client and track your time to be billed accordingly. Keep in mind that when you are working like this, you are likely to be seen as working with the client rather than for them, which has positives and negatives that come with that. Also, if you're working in this system, you might even be able to introduce them to a creative retainer. And if you want to find out more about creative retainers, head here. Now, another place that it works is when you're setting up expectations for future work. So it's a really good way to set up that expectations for a job that will be ongoing or repeated, as it's using it as a first time to do a testing phase. This is where you are still getting paid for the time that you are spending, and you're getting the expectations or setting the expectations with the client from the very start. Another added bonus of this is then you can often, once you have done something once, you're going to be faster that second time. So that setting that price based on the time it took you the first time and then charging that as the whole rate can be really beneficial to your profit capabilities. After all, they're paying for the deliverable, not the time. Another way that can work is when you can package the offering. This has been a great little hack for me that I use when clients are looking for a way to budget something that could blow out of scope. It's kind of like that transition away from hourly pricing, but still into project-based, but still bridging the gap. So I have in the past said to my clients, this job should take 10 hours, but we may go over if things get out of hand. What I can do is provide a 10 pack of hours and then check in at hour 8 or 9, and you can decide from that point whether we go based on what's left to do. More often than not, clients are massively appreciative of this structure because it allows them to budget, but also sets that expectation of things may be more expensive. And when they do become more expensive, you still get paid. Win-win. Knowing your hourly rate is important, and you don't have to disclose it to your clients if you don't want to. Clients are free to request it, but if it's something that you would rather keep private, and you totally can, by the way, you can choose to answer, I don't work on hourly rates, but prefer to create a more bespoke or budget-friendly option based on your unique job and your deliverables. This then opens up conversations around aims, investment, how the client will measure success, which is way more important than knowing actually how long it will take. Trust me, the more you work in this process and the more that you work towards shifting out of that hourly idea and no longer becoming the employee, but the service provider, or in some situations, the advisor for this particular client, the more valuable they see you as. Order up! Alrighty, that is a wrap on today's video, my fellow culinary creative. I hope I have given you some food for thought when it comes to the role hourly rates plays in your business and finding your own flavor of success. But don't stop there. Head over to creativebusinesskitchen.com to feast on even more resources and tools to help you grow a profitable freelance business. From creative calculators to gourmet guides, from finding hungry clients to charging with confidence as a creative, I serve you everything you need to cook up a storm of profit and passion in your creative business. See you in the kitchen. Now go get a snack. You have totally earned it.